What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, I did it. This is The Apprentice. I have to talk about The Apprentice. I'm talking about The Apprentice. So, it's in the title. You knew what you were getting into when you clicked on this. So, I guess troll away if that's what if that's what you're here to do. I don't know. I just delete your comments. I just whatever. Yeah, this film was provided for me for my consideration for awards, and I it did not have audio description, which puts it at a disadvantage because I couldn't understand like the totality of the film. So you're gonna have like a floating grade, but ultimately the film is unwatchable without audio description. There are too many scenes here where there's like no dialogue and something's happening, and it's like I don't know what's happening. Um, so this is an interesting film. It's an interesting film, especially to watch late, because a lot of people watch this film either at a festival with like optimism that the world would be different after the election, or they saw it when its theatrical release was in October, which actually not a lot of people did because the movie bombed the box office. But I'm seeing it sort of after. I'm seeing it after, is sort of this like I'm not happy where we are right now world. Um, I never try to hide my biases, and I do not like this man. Said Sam I am. I do not like Donald Trump and him. Uh, so yeah, I the thing is, I really wanted to watch the film because I wanted to see what the take was, what Ali Abbasi's take on him was, what Sebastian Stan was doing with it, what the hype was. And now that I have, I can tell you that I don't really understand why people are so so rather have such ruffled feathers around this film. It is um very neutral in many ways. It does not paint him in any way, which is one of the reasons why I think there hasn't been like a libel slander thing that's been able to land anywhere, is because people look at this and they go, really? I mean, there's like one scene um that I think Trump would probably have erased if he could, but it's not, there's really nothing here. He doesn't even, Sebastian Stan isn't even doing the Trumpisms with his voice. He's playing a younger version of Trump, so he's not trying to sound like Donald Trump now. I understand a lot of the performances and his mannerisms as well. Like he's really studied sort of how Trump stands and postures and facial expressions and the way he tilts his head and all that kind of stuff and gestures. And there's a lot of it is in the physicality and not in the voice. You won't hear Trump coming out of Sebastian Stan. This is not James Austin Johnson on Saturday Night Live. Um, so uh, it very much presents him as a young, sort of optimistic, um, going to conquer the world type of person. I guess fresh out of business school, although it doesn't really talk about that at the beginning. He's just he's working for his dad at his dad's company, and he has a vision for the future, and his vision involves real estate. And it sort of shows us in really interesting ways. Like at the beginning of the film, his father's company is already under investigation for discriminatory policies regarding, basically not renting to black people. Um, although Trump points out that they rent to black people, but it's just that they have to have 4 times the income to qualify, which seems seems excessive. But so the Jeffersons, I guess, I don't know, moved on up, but like regular people um can't can't figure out a way how to live in his so he's good with having poorer white people, but he needs wealthier black people is what that seems to amount to be. um he seeks uh the advice actually, he doesn't even seek the advice. He sort of shows up, and he ends up getting, he's the youngest member to join this sort of elite club. It's there that he meets Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong, and he knows of Roy and thinks that Roy would be an excellent help for him, and he tries to get Roy to help him, and Roy introduces him to like some other powerful people, and Roy sort of takes Donald under his wing, and that's what the film is about. Is the title of the film is it's a cute play on words because of his TV show, but really Trump here is the apprentice to Roy Cohn, who's has a really historically awful past in America and not as a great person. But Roy takes Trump around and gives him all the tips on how to be like him. So Trump learns how to be like Roy Cohn, which could explain a lot. But you get everything like deny, 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 always declare victory, never admit defeat. Like those are like Roy's tenets. I can't remember what his third one is, but he tells them, and then their funny thing is they're repeated like later on as like Donald is like using them as his own, like he's co-opted them. He changes the phrasing a little bit from how Roy says it, but he's later in passing on the advice to somebody else. So, and he learns from Roy and grows his empire, and they fight and they yell at people and sue them back and everything. It feels just like, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of this could probably just be corroborated. So it's just why, it's like, did you file a lawsuit? Yes. Is this historically accurate? Yes. I mean, obviously the dialogue is going to be, adapted, but none of the dialogue isn't like really offensive. If anything, it's offensive to Roy. I mean, Roy's constantly walking around calling people homo and because he was always compensating for the fact that he was by trying to make himself seem so homophobic that nobody would ever think that he was gay. So, so he's like a walking offensive magnet for things, whereas Donald, in many ways, actually comes across somewhat like the nice guy here, because he's this feels so weird to say, but he does, because Roy is just, at least for the first half of the movie, has such a nasty energy to him. Jeremy Strong is excellent here, by the way. That it becomes really hard to be like, well, Trump is topping him. It's like, no, he's not at the beginning, so it's about watching this man sort of grow and learn from Roy Cohn and adapt Roy Cohn's mannerisms and the way he attacks things and goes after people. And then by the end of the movie, basically you have Trump is Roy Cohn, and there's some really interesting give and play towards the end, especially with Roy as his AIDS diagnosis sort of becomes or HIV. I don't know if you ever actually diagnosed with AIDS. I can't remember. I will say HIV just to be safe. HIV diagnosis becomes more of a thing, and he becomes sick. There's an interesting push and play there. It's heavily suggested that Trump always knew that Roy was gay, and there's actually some stuff towards the end where I somewhat appreciated Trump for, like, it's very weird. And this is all, like, I was like, is Ali Abbasi making me feel for Trump right now? Because, like, there were things that was happening, and I kind of understand. I think Astros gave Ali a director nomination, like they swung for the fences here. He got a director nomination somewhere recently. And I'm like, it's kind of amazing when you take somebody like this and somebody who's polarizing, and if you can make people who would never give a shit otherwise, like there were moments where I was like, oh, that's really nice. And I was like, wait a minute, he's playing, God, I hate this guy. What am I doing? So like there were times where I was like, fuck, I hate both of these people, but damn it. And it reminded me a lot of like The Penguin, when you're technically, all of these people are villains, but like you're watching them be villainy, and you forget that the Penguin is a Batman villain, and then like at the end of the series, you're like reminded heavily when he finally does another he did a bad thing. Um, you're kind of reminded, oh yeah, wait a minute, I just watched a show about a villain. Shit. Uh, yeah, it's like you're still watching the show, but here, Ollie takes a swing with a gesture that Donald throws to Roy that he didn't have to, but he does. And I and it very much supports what we see now where a lot of the people who um support Trump end up getting their loyalty reward card punched, sort of so to speak. It's like he thinks about abandoning Roy. Like it's really easy. It's, HIV crisis. Nobody wants anything to do with him. There's this HIV scare. Um, and he even pushes back a little bit to begin with before he gets educated on HIV, and then does the right thing. And I was and I know it's kind of like a spoiler for the end of the movie, but it really ties into how impressed I was with Ali Abbasi's directing, because I was like, I walked into this film going like, I've heard this is a hit job. I've heard this is going to make me hate Trump. I've heard all this kind of stuff. And it's like, man, this movie was like running the gamut. I'm actually really impressed because I found myself with such a polarizing figure that I really do not like. Empathizing at times, being like, he made it. Oh, damn, that's a bad choice. It's funny how historically this film works. And also, it shows you this side of somebody, but it seems to show you in a way that really presents like a very neutral approach. Like, I couldn't tell you necessarily how Ali Abbasi feels about Trump just from watching this movie. I think a lot of people just jump to conclusions that there's an existence of a Trump movie, thus it must draw all the conclusions for you. And I guess to some extent it does, because it's not like Roy Cohn is the greatest mentor in the world. But if this relationship really existed, if he really was mentored by Roy, it's just an interesting part of his life to focus on. Be like if somebody made The Apprentice and it was just about Trump's interaction within that TV show. It would show what he was like in and around that specific part of his time. It doesn't need to tackle the presidency or anything like that. It would just show that specific part of time. So, I think I think these two performances that are getting recognized both got Golden Globe nominations. Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong are both terrific. I always think it's hilarious when I know somebody is a method actor, and I'm like, there is nothing funnier to me than Jeremy Strong spending the entire production of The Apprentice pretending to be Roy Cohn. I think he's like a walking HR nightmare. I could just see him walking around on set, like not filming, and just being like, "Yeah, homo," just like to like the wrong person. It's like, so I'm in character. um, and then and then somebody like files a complaint, and people are like, "Oh God, he's not really homophobic. He's just a method actor. This is just his thing." He's gonna be Roy Cohn from now until the end of the production. Just please, just give him some grace. And just he's pretending to be Roy Cohn, so that wasn't Jeremy Strong that said that to you. That was Roy Cohn. But I mean, it's a good performance. So it reminded me a little bit of Armageddon Time. How he was actually kind of scary. I was so used to seeing him on Succession, and I was like, I can't be scared of this guy. And that dude like kicks in the door in Armageddon Time. You're like, oh my God. Jesus. So yeah, he's got moments here that are really, really strong. So if he gets a supporting actor nomination, he deserves it. If Sebastian gets a lead actor nomination, he deserves it. So I just don't know how people are going to receive this film. It's sad that Ali Abbasi isn't getting more, because I think what he really did here was he swung and he took an interesting approach here that I wasn't expecting. I was really expecting this film to have a clear lean in a direction, and I don't think it does. I think in many times he's presented as just like a normal guy, just like a regular dude. It's funny that there are some people who come in and out of this who you'll see like throughout Trump's life, like Roger Stone. And there's a guy that plays Roger Stone here for like a second. So we do have those sort of like benchmarks, like hints of things to come, right? But yeah, I enjoyed this. Problem is I can't give it an A because it doesn't have audio description, so I have to do a floating grade, which allows for the fact that the audio description could bring it down to an A minus or even a B plus. So I don't know where this will end up, but technically my grade is unwatchable due to lack of audio description. But and the funny thing is, it's not even just the screener. This movie's available on iTunes right now without audio description. So like on VOD, I can't find it with audio description. Like if it had been presented, if I'd had the opportunity to watch it with audio description, this is one of those films that I would have chosen to just go ahead and do it myself. Which is what I've done for a couple other films that have been submitted to screen that didn't have audio description, like The Wild Robot and stuff like that. Where I just went ahead and found the audio description, just so that I can't do that with every movie. Like I can't go poor, because a lot of these movies are going to end up on streaming services. Really, this is all just for me trying to get deadlines for voting purposes. So, but yeah, I can't even find this with audio description on a VOD service. So I don't know if it had audio description in theaters. I have no idea, but I don't know what Briarcliff is doing. I know that they're strapped for cash, but maybe somewhere along the way they'll get audio description on it. So there was Day of the Fight. I don't know who's distributing that. That has audio description. So if you want to do it, you can do it. Anyway, so yeah, my grade is unwatchable. My floating grade of an A minus, meaning it could go up to an A or a B plus. I like this movie, and I was concerned going into it that with everything going on, this movie was going to make me feel worse about my life, or that this film was going to be something where I would feel like unsafe talking about it. But really, I just think a lot of people haven't seen this movie and they just hate it because it exists. I would say there's one scene. I would validate Trump's thoughts on one scene that would make him not look good. And I could see, but there are two people in that scene. And if the other person is not concerned about that scene, then I don't know why I wouldn't remove it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a scene that shares two people. I'm trying not to spoil it. Some people already know what it is, but in case you don't. Yeah, I could see that being a thing, but so it's really, I don't know. I haven't heard the other person speak on it. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.